I think the arts are very important in furthering the conversation of social justice. When I first came to LA to do Fame, the violence that was happening with the gangs and the police was just something I just could not get desensitized to, and I was always upset every time I would read in the paper of an innocent child that's killed in a crossfire, some child shot because of mistaken identity, or a policeman murdered. You know, it was just too much.
Actress, dancer, director, and producer Debbie Allen is debuting another theatrical narrative, Freeze Frame, at the Kennedy Center this fall. She hopes the play will bring attention to gun violence and its effect in the community through dance.
Freeze Frame Stop the Madness is a fusion of every art that I have mastered and am involved with. It's cinema, it's dance, it's music, it's drama, it's art. I was going to make it a movie, but then I got busy doing Fame and the movie Amistad and a lot of different things. Sweet Charity. I did a lot of things in between, but it stayed with me. And I made friends with Tommy the Clown, who created a whole style of dancing, fight dancing, crumping, battling. And I came up with this narrative.
How did you create the moods and how did you deal with all the stories in the show? Tell us about that.
Well, it was very interesting for me. I actually spent a lot of time doing research. I sat with a lot of mothers who'd lost their children. I sat with gang members who were very violent people who trusted to tell me their true stories. I spent time talking with police officers to get their feeling about what they do, how they feel. I spent so much time doing research, and then I made a decision on what stories I thought would fit, what made sense, who would be in this picture. So it starts off with the actual horrific murder of a store owner and a gang member fleeing the police. The police are trying to find him. And then they come up on a party of a lot of young black kids, and there's another guy that's wearing a blue shirt like the suspect, and they're ready to take him out because they think he's the one and it's not him. That's when the action stops. And we go back and find out who are these people in this picture, whose lives are getting ready to change forever. I play two different parts in the show. Okay. I play the wife of the bishop who has the biggest church in the country, biggest Baptist church, and his son, our son, David, is one of the young people who the story is about. He doesn't want to be a minister. He wants to use his music in rap, to connect with his community in that way, do his own way of preaching. And I play a Latina grandmother, Rosana, who is a gang member herself. And I think it's an incredible piece. It's a great entertainment at the same time. There's a great gospel scene. There's a song I wrote called Jesus is on the Line. There's a wonderful hip hop scene where they talk about the sky is still blue. There's a great hot number with the girls called Dance and Snack. There's a lot of great entertainment in the midst of something that is so real, poignant, and relevant.
As an artist, did you make this up or did it come through you?
You know, it's kind of it came to me because I was passionate. Art is, to me, the truest artists are people who are very passionate about what they're doing, whether they're painters, filmmakers, dancers. They are telling a truth. Alvin Ailey's revelations will last forever because it was coming out of Texas. It was his truth. It was his journey. It was what he understood. And this is something that I've experienced firsthand, living in LA, coming out of Texas. As a child, I can't even begin to describe what it was like for me to see President Kennedy one day with his hair gleaming in the sun, and the next day to see him shot, bloody, and it happened in my state. So I felt like I was a part of it in a way that I can't explain. a 13-year-old girl. So it sort of came to me, it did me, and now I'm doing it.
Tell me what it was. Why 18 years?
Well,
Even though, it's more relevant with today's news, it's almost more relevant because 18 years ago, there hadn't been all these police shootings in a row that received the publicity like they're receiving now.
Well, let's go back. Freeze frame is longer than 18 years. It's more like 30. But if something is in you, it's like your child. You never give up on your children. And these ideas stay with you until they come into fruition. It's part of, I don't know, that's that Debbie Allen in me. That Capricorn that doesn't give up. My father always said, you're too persistent. You don't give up. And that's one of my better qualities. I don't give up. And I will stay with something. So freeze frame is born of me through a lot of discovery, excavation, pain, and a lot of begging and pleading, and still now a lot of touch and go. A lot of people are nervous about it. Some people, they're nervous about it that it's, that it might be too political. It's not political. It's human. That's what it is.
You called it your church?
It is a very spiritual thing to be an artist and to dance and to do what I do. It is very spiritual. It comes from a place that is very pure. It comes from a place that is not always very clear. It comes from a place where you must take chances and you bring people in. I've gathered so many young people in what I do, and it is my church. My work is my church. And I love what I do, and I think I've been ordained to do it.
Freeze Frame tackles many socially conscious issues that have made headlines over the years, from fighting for equal rights to addressing bullying in schools. Tell me about how tough it was to get this play produced and shown nationally.
Well, this is a really very sensitive, topical, relevant subject. We're dealing with gun violence. We're dealing with racial relationships. We're dealing with bullying. We're dealing with, how people address women. It has so many things that are relevant to today. And it's tough because when we're trying to find sponsorship, people are very sensitive. It's a political year. There's a presidential election. We're not saying that this is not a debate that belongs to one side of the aisle or other. This is about American lifestyle.
It takes the viewer into low-income America. It's a day in the life almost of...
Well, it's not just low-income Americans. When you look at African Americans, that's the first thing people say. David and his father, they live in one of the biggest houses on the hill. It's not that it's low income. It's zip code and it's perception, just like you just said. It is perception. You perceive that if you're in the Black community, like some people in the political trail right now, we're in the worst shape that we've ever been, and that's not really true. We have in television where I work every day, Shonda Rhimes has created an empire that has embraced the diversity of not just ethnic diversity, but more women working than any place I've ever seen in my life. So what it is it's a look at the challenges of African American youth, Latin American youth. It even addresses what the police are going through. It is a very balanced conversation.
Alan told me this is a very personal issue, one that hits not just close to home, but actually hits home.
We got off a boat from Italy. My son just bought his first car, a Mercedes. And he was driving down the street. He got pulled over by the police.
In California?
In California, pulled into the car and was asked, is this car stolen? This is what we're dealing with. There's a lyric in Freeze Frame that says, There's a new endangered species right here in our homeland. The young, sometimes troubled, hoodie-wearing black man. I mean, what is going on? Why? I was so outraged. And it has nothing to do with me being Debbie Allen on TV, but there was no reason for him to be stopped. He didn't have a traffic violation, nothing. Just stop black while driving. And that's what's happening. Then on the other side, you have, policemen who honor the badge. If something happens in my house, that's the first call I'm going to make. But there's so many people who don't honor that badge. That shouldn't be there.
Allen points out this is not just a black and white issue, but a human one. And in order for change to occur, a conversation must happen among everyone.
Now and again, I mean, it just keeps happening and happening and happening and happening. What do you see as the solution?
Well, this is why it's called Freeze Frame, Stop the Madness. Everywhere where we do this show, we have an incredible panel discussion. We have got to do this grassroots, city by city by city. And people have got to come together, voice their concerns, and then do something about it. We have to have this. Nothing happens without a conversation. People have got to talk. We invited the NRA to come. They're not coming. I wanted them to come. I really did.
Why do you think they're not coming?
Well, they said that because of the presidential election, they weren't sure if they had the right person to represent the group. I don't know. I was disappointed.
Does that mean there are no African Americans or Latinos at the NRA? Is that what they were saying?
This is not about blackness. This is about American. It's not about blackness or whiteness, no. But this is not a world that's black and white. This is not a world that's Latina and black. This is a conversation that is American. And the moment that we start to realize that we are American people, go outside of this country. I do all the time. I've been to the Middle East. I've been to Asia. I've been to China, Africa. When I went to Africa, everyone said, "Oh, did you feel like you were home?" I said, "Not really. I'm from Texas. I'm home here. But I know my roots. But this is my country. This is my nation. I'm American." And that's where we have to start seeing ourselves as American people and stop all this. Because it's so interesting to me. After doing Amistad, I realized that very soon in this country, there are going to be no pure black people, white people, because we are a fusion. We are a mixture. And that's as it should be. I think you can't stop that.
But when artists get into the arena of pushing for social justice, which has
political
aspects to it, where are the potholes? Where are the sinkholes in this?
Well, the sinkholes are, how do you raise money to keep it going? Without naming names, I've talked to some really big corporations who want to, but their superiors are not letting them until after the election. They know that this is the right thing because this is coming from a dance academy, a dance world. This is not coming from a political leader or advocate that way. I'm dealing with my people, my kids every day. I'm looking at the kids whose lives will be compromised if we don't do something. No one expects their child to die when they go to the library at their own school. No one expects their child to die if they go to elementary school to their class. If Sandy Hook didn't change people's minds, they have got to be reminded. They have to. We cannot. America is the greatest country on this planet. We're the leader of the free world. That we allow free expression. This is what we want. No one's saying don't have guns. Harriet Tubman couldn't have helped abolish slavery without a gun. That is the truth. That is a fact. But do we need assault weapons on the street? Do we? Are we to the point where people who are felons or being on the FBI watch, should they be allowed to walk in and buy a gun? You have to have a license to drive a car. You have to be licensed to be a physician, to give medicine. This is no different. The CDC has proclaimed this as a medical issue, a mental health issue that is a concern to the people here in our country. We've got to do something.
Do you have a favorite scene?
I don't. It's impossible to have a favorite scene. I don't know. I think, I don't know. I think one of the most important scenes is the church town meeting, the Stop the Madness conversation. And that scene is called The Ghosts of Columbine and Sandy Hook. That is, I woke up with this song in my head. The ghosts of Columbine and Sandy Hook are speaking. Innocent souls from Charleston are still bleeding. San Bernardino will never rest, not until we fully address the problem as a nation looking for reformation. I don't know.
Do you worry you might just be preaching to the choir in this particular venue, theater?
No, I don't think I'm preaching to the choir. This is Washington, D.C. You have the cross-section of every cultural, economic, political divide come together that you can think of. I'm reaching out to senators on both sides of the aisle to come and support this project. No, I'm not preaching to the choir, because there's not a choir yet singing loudly enough that's making a change. No, I'm hoping that we'll form a choir. I'm hoping that we'll find a way to create a real choir that will do something.
And other projects you have in mind?
Well, I'll be doing the Hot Chocolate Nutcracker back in L.A. in December, where I play a rat, a stuttering rat, Bucky. Well, what are you talking about, Harvey? I mean, I'm a versatile person. Something for the families, for the holidays. I'll be doing that. I'm still
Did you produce that?
Yeah, I wrote it and directed and produced it. I'm executive producing Grey's Anatomy. We had our stellar premiere a little while ago, and that show is amazing to work on. It's quite incredible to be a part of Shondaland. Incredible. I have long held the life rights to Dr. S. Allen Counter, who is the real raider of the Lost Ark. He's a black man who's a Harvard professor and a member of the Explorers Club. He's traveled the globe. He discovered the white and the black Eskimos that were descendants of Henson and Perry, who discovered the North Pole. He went to the Suriname, where he's been working for years, and discovered a tribe of black people more pure than anything you can find in Africa almost. They escaped from the slave ships and went into the rainforest. I want to do his story. So I'm working on that. And I'm also, my sister Felicia and I really want to do more projects together. And we've got our hands on some things that we're going to come forward with. I would like to create a new ballet for Misty Copeland. I think she deserves her own original ballet. I don't know where that will go. And I really, really would love to direct opera. It's the one thing I haven't done.
Interesting. Opera. Why opera?
I love opera. It's as a young girl, when I was the first black student at the Houston Ballet Foundation, and therefore the only dancer in the corps de ballet, where we danced was at the Houston Grand Opera. And we opened Jones Hall with Aida. And I will never forget the grandness and the majesty of all of that. And I've been a fan of opera since, musicals are great, but opera is massive. It's like, you might have cows and horses on stage, 300 people, glorious music. So I'm very interested in doing opera. I love the production value of it. And if you have the right story, I think I would be really good at it.
After hearing so much so far about Debbie Allen, be honest in the comments. Does this make you love her even more or less?
You know, you mentioned Grey's Anatomy. You've talked about Amistad. You've done so many other things like directing the African American Broadway production of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. You've released solo albums. You have a dance academy. Yet you're still best known to many Americans for
Lydia Grant on Fame, which I love so much. I wear that as a badge of honor and pride. Lydia Grant is always going to be with me, and I love it that everyone, there's only a few actors in this industry that can say they have that phrase that everybody wants to, you're looking at me, you're looking at me, what is the Clint Eastwood one? Make my day. And I have, you want fame? Well, fame costs. And right here is where you start paying in sweat. So I'm like up there with the big guys. I love it.
Talk about some of your other accomplishments that you're most proud of, please.
I think the accomplishment I'm most proud of is my children. I produced Vivian Nixon and Norman Nixon Jr., my children, and all the children that I work with on a daily basis at the Debbie Allen Dance Academy. But I love my kids. They're good people, and they're doing good things, and I'm very proud of them.
What are they doing?
Well, my son, Norman Nixon Jr., wrote most of the music for Freeze Frame. And he's also a stand-up comedian, something I have to tread with lightly because young people in their conversations and their language, I have to allow them, but it's not he's very funny. And he's going to be doing a show on the Comedy Central network soon. He's part of a show. We'll see what that is. My daughter Vivian is my muse. She's actually in Freeze Frame. She plays Eartha, the young girl who could be an Alvin Ailey, but her mother's a drug addict. And Vivian is so gifted and talented. She just has to decide what she wants to do. She graduated from Fordham and was starring in her first Broadway show before she even got out of college. She's somewhat of an entrepreneur. She likes investing in apartment buildings, and she's the co-artistic director of the Debbie Allen Dance Academy. And she's the dean of the early birds, the 4 to 7 year olds. So that's her group that she's mentoring. That is incredible.
And a life of creativity is a family affair.
I've grown up in a world with my mother, Vivian Ayers, who's a poet. I've grown up in the world of art. John Biggers was like my uncle. I've grown up in a world of history that I love. And all of that informs what I do. So if you're the real artist, you're informed by everything that you do and everything that you know. I think it's important that artists address what's happening and that we help our constituents, our fans, or our community come to a place of understanding, or we express for them to the world what they're going through. We help the world understand our community, vice versa, or we include the world.
This video raises questions, and I need for you to be extremely honest in the comments when answering them. And just so you know, I have 5 questions. Number 1, do you plan on seeing, or have you seen Freeze Frame? Stop the Madness. Number 2, what are you very passionate about? Number 3, what would you ask Debbie Allen if you were given the chance? Number 4, what are your thoughts about the Black community? And number 5, what does a great America look like to you? Now, please be honest when answering these questions. Share this video with anyone you deem necessary. And do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel.